And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the semi-finals of the KSL of the Korean StarCraft League, week number 67. We are nearing the finale of the event, actually, as both semi-finals are currently underway, and we are here to determine which of these two players will advance on into the grand finals. Who's going to be our first finalist? As spawning in the top right-hand corner of Leylines, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Protoss player, also from South Korea. It is Zoun. And if you're in the chat, you know what time it is. It's Gamba time. Predictions are open. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series. Best of luck in the chat. Coming into this, Dark is the favorite player, is what I will say. But Shin was also the favorite player. And Zoun, he played well, did play out the series very well in Game 1. Zoun did go for his own 3-base all-in, if you remember, on Whispers of Gold. Game 2 here on this map, on Leylines, we had a more unorthodox build out of Zoun, going for Void Rays into Charge Archon, did kind of bait out or even force an all-in out of Shin, if you recall, as Shin did play Muta into just mass Queen Walk across the map with Roach Ravager, and Zoun was able to showcase his defensive prowess, survive the all-in, survive another all-in after that, just snowball out of control from there. But of course, Dark is a very different kind of player here. Is aggressive himself, very aggressive in this matchup, and often doesn't play straight up and doesn't play macro. But despite that, a very different kind of aggression compared to Shin. Very different. So our eyes are going to be on Dark here coming into this. But now, standard openers. It is going to be Hatch Gas Pull out of Dark. Likewise, Gate Expand into Cybercore from Zoun. Based on the pylon placement, it should be a Stargate opener. The reason for this is the pylon is further out, closer to the edge of the main instead of further back behind the mineral line, so it should be a Stargate from our Protoss. But as we saw in the previous game, just because it's a Stargate doesn't mean it has to be Oracle. It could be a Void Ray once again, and we could see a bit of a more unorthodox build out of Zoun, as the Stargate has been placed, and we will soon find out the unit of choice. So we'll see if he goes Void Ray once again or into an Oracle instead. Our eyes are going to be on Zoun here. You know, back at home, Dark just droning, saturating, now taking his third. Ooh, the probe does not deny. Zoun barely not there in time. And Dark can settle in. He can settle in, he's pulling out of gas, droning up. We'll keep an eye on any gas resaturation there from Dark. He's very fond of going into fast layers, into Link Queen Nidus all-ins, for example, Drop Lord all-ins, like Hydra rushes. He's very much so willing to embrace early tech. And meanwhile, we have the answer once again, just like the previous game against Shin. It is a Void Ray opener out of Zoun. And once again, I have to reiterate that the power of a Void Ray opener is keeping the Zerg player in the dark and denying scouting, denying vision, denying information. And this can lead into a standard build or into something more aggressive, something more unorthodox. Last game, if you recall, this led into Charge ults, into Archons, into some Charge Archon aggression with additional Void Rays. We'll see what Zoun takes this time. Meanwhile, Dark, he likes the Dark Pappy. He'll be fine. He will be fine. Copium. But now dipping in, gets eyes on... Ooh, doesn't quite get eyes on the third base timing. Third base now being thrown down. Dark, he is deflected by the Void Ray. For the time being. As the Void Ray is on patrol. Behind this, we do have the initial Oracle. Oracle's moving out. Ling dips in, and Dark, he confirms the timing of the third base. So first things first, he is aware that there is no all-in. There's no 2-base all-in. And so far, this looks like the same build. It's Zoun opening up Void Ray into Oracle, into a second Void Ray, I would imagine into Twilight Council, into Temple Archives, into Charge, and Archons. So far, it looks like the same build. Meanwhile, Dark going for an earlier lair timing. Interesting. That's going to be a 4:30 lair timing out of Dark. Much earlier here compared to Shin previously. Eva Chambers on the way. And I'm most curious to see if Dark is going to embrace an earlier Hydra Den. Based on the Bailey Nest, it does look to be Lingbane Hydra. You don't throw down the Bailey Nest unless you intend on skipping the Roach Warren. Now, against Charger Archon, I'm a little bit concerned for Dark. As you can imagine, Charger Archon, they do an amazing job at tanking Ling Bane and snowballing through and snowballing out of control. Without Roach Ravager, it is going to be a much more difficult defense from the Zerg player. Not impossible, but more difficult. Assuming that that's the direction that Zoun is going in. Yep, there it is. Archons. So Forge, Twilight Council, Charge, and Archons. It is the same build 2 games in a row here out of Zoun, but of course 2 very different opponents. And again, I'm a little bit concerned about the lack of roaches and the investment into Ling Bane. As Dark is making some safety banelings, he's joining up, saturating, going into Spire Tech, rushing into Mutas. Now, if you remember, Shin did something very similar. Shin, he went Ling Roach into Mutas, and by the time the Mutas moved out across the map, Zoun, he pushed himself. And because of that, there was very little to defend back at home. And that's when, if you remember, Shin was forced into the all-in. Is when he had nothing to deal with the Archons, and he lost a base, he lost a mineral line. That's kind of what led into that game state. And it's looking very similar here as well, as the 4th base is denied. I'm worried because this time the Zerg player won't have any roaches, so the counterattack and the counter all-in, if we're in the same situation, is going to be weaker for Dark. The flip side though, because there's no Roach Warren, when the Spire finishes, Dark, you will have more gas, and I imagine it's going to be investing even harder into Mass Muta. As the Baleen does get eyes on the Archon. The Archons are slowly building up over time. And I believe Zoun is going to move out with his Robo. When the Robo finishes, we should be seeing a Warp Prism, and then Zoun is going to be pushing. And before that does occur, Muta production has begun. And I appreciate this, we have a backup Roach Warren. Now, it is a late Roach Warren, which means Roach speed is going to be delayed, but a Roach Warren nonetheless. And Dark, he has realized the importance of Roaches considering the army composition he's up against. So he will eventually get into Roach production, eventually. But now the Lings are being active to try to keep Zoun busy, to keep him pinned. See, Lings are in most of the attack pods, ready for counterattacks as well. At 7 Mutas, they are popping out. Here's a 2 rotate towards the left-hand side. Lings hit the 4th base. They try to get the surround, but alas, Zoun, he does defend. Deflects the Lings. Mutas, they hit the natural, and Zoun, he's pushing. And I mean, it's again, deja vu. The same situation that Shin was in. Ooh, the Prism takes a lot of hits, but the Prism does survive. The Queens are going to be falling. And Roach production has begun. 14 Roaches on the way just in time. This base may fall, but Darky will have a ground army. Meanwhile, Mutas, they do dive into the main. 11 probe kills, not bad. 13 probes. Damage is being done. Dark actually achieving a lot more this time with his Mutas compared to Shin. It's going to be 14 dead workers. Some of the Mutas do escape. And Zoun, he doesn't have enough to keep pushing. Does pull away. Doesn't commit in. Again, that is a wall of roaches waiting for him. And again, so important here that Dark did throw down the Roach Horn when he did. As he now can defend, he can survive. Behind this, re-expanding, getting into the base. I believe Zoun did not kill any workers. Yeah, he killed the expansion, but no drones. Unlike where Shin, where he did lose his mineral line. So economically, Dark, he's maintaining himself. Switching into Hydras. Hydra down on the way. Mutas are going to be cleaned up. But this time Dark, or this time the Zerg player is not forced into an all-in. He can just settle in, he can calm down, he can drone up, tech up as well. Hydra production well underway. And Zoun, he's taking into the fleet beacon. Now, what I will say from the side of Zoun is that thankfully he didn't throw away his army. He didn't try to test the defenses of Dark and try to force his way into the wall of roaches. It would not have ended well for Zoun. So Zoun, he respects Dark position, he backs off, he's still on his 4 base economy, and now he's taking into Skytoss. So we're all building up towards a longer game state. We are all teching. Dark is the first to max. Catches the Warp Prism, nicely done. Now, what I will say is the army is maxing out for the Zerg player here is that the army is inefficient. There's a lot of roaches here, which were made in a panic earlier. They were necessary to survive and to defend. But at this point, these roaches, they're hurting Dark more than anything. So he wants to trade. He wants to trade out the army, trade out the roaches. And as if on cue, Zoun moves out to trade. Roach is getting caught. Alright, started stepping forward. Nice force fields here out of Zoun, and no Ravagers. There's no answer to the force fields. Darky gets pinned back, Ling right towards the natural, forcing a recall. Thankfully, Zoun doesn't recall everything. Keeping up with the army movement here of Dark. Nice force fields, catching out the roaches. Dark is forced back. He's into the main, trying to wreak havoc. And Zoun defends. Likewise, as Dark has been leading out roaches, he's replacing them with drones, with lings. We now have Hive tech on the way. Well, the Hive is done. Lurker Den's on the way. Dark, he's transitioning into Hydra Lurker Viper. He's getting there. Likewise, investing into those upgrades. Zoun, meanwhile, investing into his own Tempest. And again, he's been defending well. Eventually, Zoun, he will need another expansion, and then we go. The 5th base is on the way. And we'll see if we can hold on to it. See if Zoun can defend. As both armies start building up. We have Tempest upgrades on the way, +1 air attack, 2nd Forge for the shield upgrades as well. Embracing that late game composition. Earlier Storm, this time from Zoun. If you recall last game, it was more delayed, which made me concerned. In the end, wasn't even necessary, but this time Zoun is on top of it. This time Storm is much earlier. As Dark, he does come across the 5th. Zoun is somewhat in position. Dark, he backs up. Lurkers are scouted. Zoun pokes in. He rotates with his main arm here towards that northern base. And we'll see if he can bring down an expansion. As he moves out, Ling Hydra comes in for a counterattack. Zoun, he responds. Turns back around. That's a kill, not a cancel. Nexus does fall, but Zoun, he will catch out this army. At the same time, Dark pushing from our hand side. Zoun out of position. Cannons are falling. Can he get the Nexus? Up. Nah, he can. We're going for the base trade. Let's go. Nexus is going to fall. The 4th base does crumble. And Zoun commits. Running into Spore Crawlers, running into Queens. Lurkers are in position. And Zoun, he is denied. He recalls. He recalls back home. What does he save? He saves the 3rd base, but he lost the 4th. He already lost the expansion. Dark is all over this. Trying to get the hell out of here. Now, what I will say is that I do favor Zoun in a head-to-head fight. So Dark, he has to try to preserve this army. Racing back home, going for another run by, another counterattack. Zoun, he responds. And even though Zoun is favored in a head-on fight, he's forced back home time and time again. A cancel here on the new 4th. Well, I guess the new 5th. Oh, Hatchery did go down. Still very tense. Now, on the one hand, Dark is buying time, and he's morphing in even more lurkers as we speak. Still, though, in a head-on fight, I just still favor the Protoss. Like, Zoun has a terrifying army. He's got 5 Tempests, 7 Archons, not as many Immortals as he otherwise would have liked. But he's throwing away Zealots to make room. Let's see if Dark is able to keep up. How many lurkers is he on? He's on 15. 15 lurkers, 2 Vipers. The problem here is that Dark doesn't really have any pushing power. He has no way to try to push into these bases. We spoke earlier about the difference between Whispers of Gold and ley lines, and that's coming into play here, where these bases are much more defendable. The high ground, the choke points, whether it's at the center location, whether it's here on the left-hand side as well, trying to see like a line of lurkers pushing up these ramps, it's not easy. I mean, we saw Shin attempt it and fail at it. So Dark, he's stuck on his half of the map. From here, investing into air upgrades. I mean, this is the correct call. Is working towards Corruptors, working towards Broodlords. Especially as Zoun is investing into more carriers and more Skytoss. Hydra Lurker Viper, it does have a bit of an expiration date with how well it can perform. Speaking of, Dark going for a run by. Catching out some side defense. Not quite getting to the mineral line. But once again, like hit and run tactics here from Dark. Just picking off whatever he can, but oh, he is poking the beast here, and down he's moving out. Dark, he's racing back home. Does try to race back. Okay, Lurkers do rotate. We have 7 Infestors on the way. More Spore Crawlers as well. Dark attempting to fortify himself. I mean, this is the best case scenario for Dark, is to fight with the side defense. Still not going to be easy. Oh, can we get the yoinks up? Ooh, not quite. Clutch feedback, very nice storm. Both Vipers go down. Ooh, without Vipers, I mean, how do you deal with this? You don't. Yeah, the Tempest, they can just rain free. Ooh, the Archons, they do move a little bit too far forward. Be careful. As Darky just goes for a counterattack. He knows he cannot fight this main army. Goes for a massive counterattack instead. Look, the Tempest is slowly pushing through. Dark diving on the carrier. Oh, doesn't quite get it. Tempest moving in. And Dark, he will not break through this army. Yeah, he will not break through those 2 carriers. The carriers, they clean up all the Hydras. Zoun, he defends. And he attacks. And Dark, he's up against the wall. He's in trouble. The base is going to fall. Neural's cut. Let's go, the Neural. The Neural on the Archon. Here come the feedbacks. Dark losing the expansion. And again, Dark, he does not have a bank. He does not have the economy. He's down to 64 workers. Barely an economy for Dark. And Dark, he has lost how many? 11 lurkers. Down to 4. Barely any lurkers left for Dark. And Zoun, from this point, is just snowballing out of control. He can just have his way with this army. Again, the lack of economy for Dark, it's now catching up with him. The lack of workers. As else, it's just wreaking havoc. Another base is going to go down. And again, Dark just, it's too much. The death ball is real. Dark cannot engage. Just being bullied back. And again, as we mentioned, like, Dark, he doesn't have any money. Like, he's broke. He doesn't have any money to switch into Corruptor, to switch into more Vipers as well. Dark, he has gas, yes, but he has no minerals. So he's forced to work with what he has here. Now, there is still a lot of potential with this kind of army composition, especially if Zoun gets caught somewhat out of position. But Dark, he's relying on Zoun making that mistake. Whereas if Zoun plays carefully, then he should be fine. Here come the yoinks. Going for the Neurals. Let's go. The Tempest, they now belong to Dark. And can he get a Tempest? Up. Not quite. We can drag the army in. Do we have any anti-air? Okay, we do have some Hydras. 3 Tempests going down. I'm assuming 3 Tempests. Up. No, never mind. He gets... There we go, the third one. Third Tempest does 4. At the same time, Zoun, he denies an expansion. But again, that's what Dark is hoping for. He's hoping for the Tempest to overextend, and then he can either abduct or neural, one or the other, and slowly pick away at the Tempest count. Slowly pick away at the Skytoss army. He's relying on those moments. Zoun throwing away his probes. And he doesn't need them. Dark trying to keep up. He's got, how many lurkers is he back up to? 22. 22 lurkers. Let's go. 22 lurkers. To make up for his lack of anti-air, he's going to have to rely on those Neurals. Neurals on the Tempest or on the carriers. Zoun, he does rotate. Catching out some free lurkers. And Dark out of position. Does abduct one of those Archons. Archon does survive. Archon's a beefy boys. But again, Zoun just being so careful, just denying bases. Denying the expansion. Oop. Does land a storm. Another storm going up. Here come the Neurals. Yeah, Neurals doing the Tempest once again. The Tempests are exposed. Ooh, but mass feedback. The Infestors are going to be going down. The Tempest forced within range here of the Hydras. And the Tempest count is reset. Whew. Gets every single Tempest. You can see here, Dark immediately just remaxing on more Infestors. Just 9 more Infestors. Each one is potentially a Tempest. And now down to 0 Tempests, but alas, because of Zoun's economy, he's making 4 Tempests at a time. He is rebuilding, he's remaxing. And Dark, his goal here is to do that again. to do that again. To catch out the army. Oof. Starkey runs into the Archons, and the problem here is that Zoun, his economy, it's still fully operational. He has a booming economy. Dark trying to go for a counterattack. Running into a wall of cannons, the space doesn't really matter as much. There's not as much value here. Oh, but he does deny that Northern Nexus. Not bad. Nice run by here at the Dark. The distraction did work. Last now, Zoun is back up to 5 Tempest. Once again, as Zoun rotates, Ling run by. Denies the base once again. Meanwhile, Nidus into the natural. Does Zoun notice? Yeah, he has. He has noticed. He pulls back. But again, Dark, he's just getting breathing room. He's just gaining breathing room here. Forcing Zoun all the way back home. And now Dark, he can start to assault some of these bases. Spots the army. Dives in, gets 2 Archons and an Immortal. Sorry, two Immortals even. Nice pickups. Zoun, he has to respond. It's a very slow, very mobile army. Force a recall. From here, Dark should back up. Respects the recall. Zoun is not taking this line down. Also going for his own DT counterattack. But again, there's just so much pressure on Dark. And it's so risky being active the way that he was, especially if he doesn't know where the main army is, because, again, he cannot be caught out. Dark doesn't really have the bank to remax if he does take a bad fight. Zoun poking in. Dark getting ready with his Infestors. Oh, Zoun establishing this northern base. Dark, he can't let that base get up and running, at the same time going for a Baneling run by. But again, I mean, there's no economy here. Tempest getting free damage. Lurker's going down. Baneling's a crash into the site defense. Starkey's trying to gain ground. Moving forward with those Lurkers. Lings, they catch the reinforcements with his DT defense as well. These are brutal losses here. Neural on the Infestor. Ay, ay, ay. 2, 3 more Lurkers going down. Dark going for another Ling run by. Gets a Neural. Gets one. Oh, the feedback's so brutal there. And not quite worth it. 3 Infestors go down. And again, back at home, there are plenty of Dark Templar. The Lings, they do nothing. And Zoun is all over this. This one, he is all over this. He's all over Dark. Just picking him apart. Like Dark, he's hoping for some kind of distraction, but Zoun is just focusing on the main fight. Focusing on the Tempest. Non-stop revelations as well. The feedbacks are brutal. Yeah, once down, once he's looking. He's not getting caught out. Oh. Yeah, brutal dive. Gets punished with the storm. Feedbacks on the Vipers. Feedbacks here on the Infestors as well. And there's nothing left. There's just nothing left here for Dark. The High Templar completely shut him down. And Dark is out of money. We spoke about it. He didn't really have the bank. He's down to less than 100 gas. GG gets called and Zoun. He will take game number 1. Whew. GG. GG, well played. Zoun will take a lead in the series. And Zoun is 1 game away from making it to the grand finals. Uno más, papi. 1 more game is all he needs. Again, Dark, I would say that he did have a better performance here compared to Shin against Zoun on ley lines, but despite that, Dark, his lack of economy was really hurting him. Dark, he was at sub 70 workers for most of that game. Because of that, he never really built up a bank to work with. He did have some strong moments, don't get me wrong, he had some nice counterattacks, but we saw that once Zoun got that death blow of an army of Tempest, Carrier, Archons, Immortals, High Templar, and Storm, once he could just focus on these main frontal engagements, like that's where Zoun was able to thrive and just pick Dark apart. GG. GG, well played. And now we're getting to game number 2. Let's go. Let us go. Este Chase, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Good morning, Chase. Good morning. As we're getting into game number 2 and spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ultra Love, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing himself. Currently, team is down in the series. We'll see if he can bounce back and force the ace match. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Red Zerg player, leading the series 1-0, 1 game away from advancing on to the grand finals. It is Zoun. And again, very impressive play out of Zoun in that last game, especially when it came to his late game army control. And what I should emphasize is, coming into Ultra Love, I do favor that style as well. I would imagine that Zoun once again wants to go into something more defensive, something more macro-oriented. If you recall in the last game, Zoun, he did counterattack that one moment where he did kill the 4th base, but outside of that, he was focusing on just defending back at home, and Ultra Love does favor that style. Ultra Love, there's a lot of choke points, a lot of narrow spaces. It is very much so common to see a split map scenario on Ultra Love, or at least a player securing their 3, 4, and 5 base economy. So I do like the idea of Zoun playing a similar way here in game 2 as well. I do think the map does favor that style. Meanwhile, the pressure is going to be on Dark. Now, coming into this series, if you recall, I was talking about how Dark is typically... Oh god. Be careful. As Dark, he does have a bit of a miscontrol with those workers for a moment there. A little bit concerning. Standard opener here out of Dark. But Dark, he's typically more of an aggressive player. Dark, he's not really known for his late game. That's not where Dark thrives. He thrives in the early to mid game with all-ins, with aggressive play, with aggressive style, very much so in your face, just causing chaos and causing chaos and causing havoc. That is where Dark thrives. We didn't get to see that on ley lines. Can we see that here on Ultra Love? Our eyes are on Dark. We'll see if he throws down any earlier Roach Warren, earlier Tech, earlier Lair. We'll see if Dark is more aggressive here, because I feel like that's where Dark's strengths lie. That's where strengths do lie. But now Stargate open out of Zoun, and we'll see if he opens up Void Ray once again. We shall see. As the Stargate is halfway done. If you recall last game, similarly to Shin, Dark did try to invest into mutas. You could also argue that maybe it's a bait here, that Zoun, he's wanting that muta response, as it does delay further tech from the Zerg. Dark did kill 14 probes with his mutas though, so they did pay for themselves. It wasn't too bad of a commitment there from Dark. As this time Oracle, okay, is going to be an Oracle opener out of Zoun. Is mixing it up. So this is looking like something more standard here from our Protoss. Going for the Oracle. Gaining map control, harassing across the map, getting a third base. Everything looking standard so far. Which is not what we saw in game 1. So the Overlord is being chased down. And, oh no! Oh, the Overlord does fall, even without the Oracle. That does supply block Dark. Oh, that is, yeah, a bit of a brutal supply block here, just waiting for the hatchery to complete. Back up Overlord on the way. Zoun getting his third, investing into additional oracles. So far, everything looking normal. Daddy Dark. Ay. Calm down. Calm down. Ah, no. As it is going to be that triple oracle opener out of Zoun. This should lead into +1 and I would imagine Blink. But again, that's going to be a very different style to what we just saw on ley lines. We'll see if Zoun does embrace those Blink Stalkers. Now moving out with some harass. That's going to be a 4:30 timing here with the lair. Dark once again going lair first. If you recall, last game this led into mutas. We'll see what Dark goes for this time. So Oracle dips in. Does dip in. No major forms of techie yet. Gases are being taken. We have a 3 gas setup for the time being. Into an Evo chamber. I'd imagine this should be Ling Hydra, but see if he goes for the Spire again. Meanwhile, Zoun is indeed going to +1 and Blink, as we mentioned before. More standard setup. Yep, Baliness has been thrown down. This is the same opener that Dark went for in the last game. Is the same opener. Same timing with the Lair, same timing with the Evo Chamber, and the Baliness as well. If you recall at the time, I had assumed that this was going into Hydras, but last game we saw the Spire. This time, there we go. Hydra Den is being thrown down. So it's going to be Lingbane Hydra out of Dark, and this can fare quite well here against +1 Blink Stalkers. Assuming Zoun doesn't all, he's going for the all-in. Oh boy, now this is where now I'm concerned for Dark, as Dark, he's not going to have roaches to defend. Oh boy. Here we go. We saw this on Whispers of Gold in game 1 against Shin. Now we're seeing it here against Dark. How many gateways? 4 gateways are done, 4 gates are on the way. It's going to be a 3-base, 8-gate all-in out of Zoun, a pure Blink Stalker, non-stop aggression. It's all or nothing for the Protoss. He's not taking into like Storm or Immortals or Colossus or Disruptors. None of that, none of the sort. Just pure Blink Stalker all-in from the Protoss player. And Dark, he did decide to skip roaches. And without roaches to defend, it's going to be a tough hold for Dark. Not impossible, but it's going to be a tough hold. Things are spotted. Stasis traps are being set up. I mean, because of the oracles, the Lings, they shouldn't really be able to touch this army. Queens are exposed. He gets up. Plus Transfuse. Transfuse does pop off. 1, 2 Queens going to be going down. Lings, they try to engage. They're out of position. They're racing back over. Stasis traps are being baited out. Not bad. Oh, but the Stasis, they're brutal. They do connect. And Lings are falling. So far, good blink control here by Zoun. Does blink away. Ooh, leading out 1 Stalker. The Hydras are exposed. Just waiting for extra reinforcements. Zoun blinking back. Picking up the Queens. The Hydra count is building up. The Lings, they break out. So far, Dark, he's holding. He is holding on. Again, as the Hydra count gets higher than Dark, he can hold, he can't get away with this. Stasis going off once again. The Hydras are going to start falling. They do trade with the Stalkers. Nicely done. 2 more Stalkers go down, bit of miscontrol there by Zoun. And has he lost too many Stalkers? Has Dark held? I think he has. Yeah, 20 Lings in production. Dark, he is holding. And Zoun has no other option here. Like, there's nothing else behind this. He now starts pro production. Oof. Yeah, late saturation for Zoun. And nice stasis. Stasis does pop off. But Dark, he's hit critical mass. Like, this is his win condition to get into critical massive Hydra. Now Zoun is expanding, but it's a late expansion. Dark from here, baiting out the stasis. Things collapsing in. Dark trying to force a fight off of creep. It's going to be a messy fight, but still a fight in favor of Dark. Oh. Picking off more stalkers. Stasis gets baited. Dark forcing Zoun back all the way to the proxy. Nice Oracle counterattack, but there's not really much energy to work with. And Dark from here is getting into +2. Looking to max out, whittling Hydra. And remember, like Zoun, he was all in. Behind this, there's no splash damage. There's no further tech. Not yet. Storm has just now begun, getting into charge. But there's a window. There's timing here available where Dark could try to bring Zoun down before Storm comes into play. Oh. Nice trades. Nice trades out of Zoun. Still getting caught out though. Bleeding out some stalkers. And these are losses that Zoun can't quite afford. As Dark, he's cornering him. Yeah, there's no way out of this. The stalkers, it's a one-way trip. He tries to recall. And he will escape with some of his stalkers at least. Does get away. But again, Zoun is in trouble and Dark is morphing in 40 Bailings. That's a lot of Bailings. Zoun knocks down the tower. Trying to buy time. I mean, Storm is almost done. True. How many High Templar? 4. 4 High Templar. If the Storms are on point, then potentially Zoun can hold. But these Storms, they need to connect. Up. Rolling something Bane. And GG gets called as Dark overwhelms. And we are going to the ace match. Dark, he survives the 3-base all-in. His snowballs out of control. We're going all the way to game number 3. GG. We're going to the ace match, and I'm most curious as to the map of choice here. When it comes to Zoun's 3-base all-in, I mean, again, I do think it was a good option to go for, trying to catch Dark with his pants down. And initially, he was trading well against the Lings, but we saw that he wasn't quite able to get on top of those Hydras. There was a very high Queen count due to the high Queens. They were buying time more than anything to just build up the massive amount of Hydras. And eventually, Dark, he got there. Got to that critical mass of Hydra. With that, was able to snowball out of control. GG, well played. And the ace match is going to be on a very often vetoed map. Oh. Very often vetoed map in the map pool. We are going to be getting into El Dorado. Let's go. El Dorado is coming up next. And I'm curious to see what builds we go for here on such a small map. Now, it is very common to see a rush into Tempest on El Dorado. I mean, I say very common. I say that just because we've seen Classic, Hero, and Max Packs go for these Tempest rushes. I think we've seen Zoun do it before as well. But yeah, at the same time, it is a little bit obvious. It's very played out on El Dorado, so we might deviate instead. We'll see what Zoun goes for. Likewise, we'll see what Dark goes for as well. Let's go. So we are getting into the ace match, and spawning in the bottom right hand corner of El Dorado, we have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing himself as himself here, is the best Zerg player in all of South Korea, and soon going to be joining the military, casting in for one of the last times here in 2025. It is Dark. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner, we have his opponent, we have the red Protoss player being forced into the ace match. We'll see if he can bring it back and bring it home and bring us all the way to the finals. It is Zoun. We go. Again, for those that are unaware, Dark, he did recently receive an award last month in December at the end of the year. He was inaugurated into the Esports Hall of Fame, or the Casper Hall of Fame, if you will. The Casper Esports Hall of Fame. There you go. He was brought in, and Dark, he did have an acceptance speech. He was referring to, his career, of course, but also the fact that his military service is on the horizon, and he will be joining soon. Didn't exactly give a date, and I know that it's a bit of a meme at this point where Dark has been talking about joining the military for a long time, but he also left his team, and in leaving his team did speak about how Dark is going to the military, and as a result, they have of course supported him all this time, and they have a lot of love for him, of course, as well, but his current performances in StarCraft are soon going to be coming to an end, as he will be joining the military. Our assumption is that it's going to be sometime here in January, but we'll see. We'll see what does come of it. So as a result, we're here to cast Dark while we can, while we have him, Pappy, while we have him. We're here for Dark. Let's go. Zoun is going to be opening up with the gate Nexus into Cybercore. Standard opener out of Zoun. My favorite part is when he thanks Pappy. Ah, true. True. I mean, I'm sure a part of him even delaying his military service was because, you know, now he is a dad, right? And I'm sure he wanted to be there for the birth of his daughter, and, you know, for initially raising her as well. Wanted to be there for the family while he could. So now Dark is going to be taking his third, going to be expanding towards his opponent, mining through these patches. Alright, of course, welcome one and all to El Dorado, one of the most vetoed maps in the map pool, and because of, I mean, there's reasons for that. One of the big features, of course, is the southern half of the map is fully walled off by these mineral patches, and there are gold bases. There are very accessible gold bases here available to both players, and a center gold base as well. You can also expand towards your opponent, a very short rush distance by ground if they expand towards each other. So we'll see how aggressive Dark plans on being. We have seen many a Queen walk across the map on El Dorado. Likewise, this time, Void Ray Opener by Zoun. Let's go. Void Ray Opener here. This looks like a split map Tempest Dream. I mean, there's a reason why we've seen a lot of Tempest rushes on El Dorado, 100%, to rush into Tempest, to maintain control of this center location. We'll see if Zoun heads that direction, as he will be going for a Twilight Council before third base. Hello, Zoun. So very early tech, very early Twilight Council. I would imagine this should be for Glaive Adepts. I would imagine this should be Stargate, Void Ray into Glaive Adepts, but we'll keep an eye on Zoun. We'll see how many gateways he throws down and how committed he becomes. There is a build here. If we were casting Hero, I would say this could be Fast Blink. Here, he's very fond of going into Fast Blink Stalkers and turning this into a 3-base all-in with Fast Blink. But the gateways are being thrown down, and show us your upgrade of choice. What's it gonna be? Okay, it's a third option. I was like, it should be Glaives. I mean, there are some players who go Blink. Here we have Charge instead. Let's go. No gases at the natural. Rushing into Zealots, rushing into Chargelots. Some are pulling out a gas here in the main as well. And the goal here is to catch Dark off guard with a charge timing. Let's go. I'm curious if this hits with Archons as well, as the Robo's on the way. We have a massive gateway explosion. How many gates? Jesus, oh my god, 8 gates. 8 gates on 3 bases. And 6 gates are on the way, 2 already done. Did I say 8 gates? We're getting up to 9. Do we get up to 10? Up. Not quite. Up to 9 so far. That's a lot of gateways. Meanwhile, behind this, Dark, he's going for a Queen Walk. Let's go! I mean, we spoke about this. Queen Walks are very common on El Dorado. Very common, especially if both players expand towards each other. So Dark, he's going for his own Queen Roach Ling all-in. And meanwhile, Zoun going for his own all-in. Charge almost done. But Zoun, his gateways are not done. He needs time to warp in. He needs time to reinforce. So Dark, he will hit first. Dark, he waddles across the map. We have some charge to the defense. Stasis traps are going to be baited. It's all or nothing, one way or another. The game is about to end. Charge, they collapse in. The Queens, they cannot transfuse. And Queens are going down. They do get the Void Ray. Void Ray does fall. Third Queen falls as well, though. I mean, the Zealots are trading very efficiently. And Dark is going to be forced back. Losing every single Queen. Losing the Ravagers as well. The Charge, they just overwhelm. One all-in is not quite like the other. As Charge, they just shut down the army. And they're going to be chasing down those Ravagers. We see Dark trying to kite back. He's massing up his own Roaches. 7 Roaches on the way. But reinforcements are coming, and Zoun, he has momentum. Again, Dark, he wasn't expecting the counter all-in. Oh, no. And Zoun, he's snowballing out of control. He's breaking through, takes out all the Queens, takes down the Roaches, busts into the mineral line. There's just nothing left here. As Dark, he's trying to mass up reinforcements, trying to mass up an army. But the mass charge, though, that's all you need. That's all Zoun wants. And GG gets called. He breaks through Zoun. He will take the series 2-1, advancing on to the grand finals. GG. GG, well played. Build order win, pretty much. GG, well played is a build order win. Again, the charge lots, they do, I mean, there were no transfuses, of course, with all the queens. The army was out in the open. When you're up against a charge all-in like this, you do need SimCity. You do need choke points in your favor. You need to be able to kite back into your mineral line. You need to be able to make use of your buildings, of course, and just try to minimize the surround, minimize surface area on your army. That was the goal. That's typically the goal against that kind of play. But Dark was caught out in the open. He was caught out in the open because he was going all in himself, and Zoun snowballed out of control from there. GG. GG, well played. Zoun will take the series, and Zoun advances on to the grand finals to face off against his Protoss opponent. Who exactly is that Protoss opponent? Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look yourself.